My name is Tom Williams, City Manager here at the great city of Millbrae. And I've met many of you in the community and many more of you since the very successful BLM March on June 13th. I can say we have some truly great, wonderful people in this city. I'm so proud to be your city manager and look forward to tonight's continuation of the discussion at our town hall. So tonight's town hall meeting does provide the forum for our citizens to share their stories and perspectives, for the city to gain a deeper understanding of the complex issues that are related around racial equity and how we as a city, your city that serves you, can continue to come together as one strong community where people of all backgrounds and income levels can thrive. We've been working with the great folks at Peninsula Conflict Resolution Center, Jose and his team, to draw on their meeting facilitation services and experience. So tonight, Jose and his team will be facilitating the town hall and will introduce themselves and background shortly and take over the lion's share of the meeting. And again, as this is a town hall format, we do want to hear from you, our community members. The city council is present, but tonight their role is simply to listen. And since this is not a meeting of the city council, they are regulated by a law known as the Brown Act in the state of California. And so by that Brown Act law, they will not be able to participate, but only listen tonight. As we continue and develop policies, we will certainly present those to the city council at a regular council meeting where they will participate and move forward. Also present tonight is our police chief from the San Mateo County Sheriff's Office, Mr. Paul Kunkel. So good evening, Chief. And as we get started, there are 4 members of the Millbrae community that have offered to share their stories and set the stage for others to share theirs. So it's with great pleasure that I introduce Celeste Henry, Gina Miranda, Alice Kwong, and Marion Kong. And by way of introduction, our first speaker will be Celeste Henry. Celeste is a graduate of Mills High School and certainly a rising star as she attends Skyline College and is captain of their soccer team. She's an active member in the recently formed local anti-racist coalition here in the city of Millbrae and has just started with a local ACLU chapter. Celeste hopes to transfer to either UCLA, UC Irvine, or University of Texas at Austin to complete her business degree. She's also an ambassador to the, I don't know how to pronounce this first name, but the Gawakai Yerba Mate University. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our first speaker, Celeste Henry.
Hi, everyone. So like Tom said, my name's Celeste, and I want to start off by saying thank you for the opportunity to speak. A little backstory of my identity. So I'm primarily Mexican, Black, and Filipino. I had no clue what my identity meant to me until I moved to Millbrae. I didn't understand that I was different. The truth is I only looked different and I had a different cultural background than most. It's been hard growing up as a multiracial individual because being only part Mexican, part Black, and part Filipino was never enough for any cultural group. So most of my life, including filling college applications out, meant putting myself in a box marked Asian or Black or Hispanic when I'm all of the above. And to people in those cultural communities and even outside of them, I was never Mexican enough or Filipino enough or Black enough. People I shared history with never seemed to fully accept me, and honestly, neither has society. I think because my parents grew up as military kids in other parts of the world, they didn't understand the full extent of the racial issues in America. And they taught my sisters and I growing up to not fear law enforcement or be warned about how judgmental people might be because of our hair or skin color, or that we might be treated differently. We were taught to be our own person and not let others tear us away from success, and treat people with kindness and respect despite any differences we may have. This is how everyone should treat each other, but it's not the reality. Although it's not what I was taught, I do fear being judged by others because of my skin color, and I do fear law enforcement because I grew up hearing all these stories of people who look like me being killed or beaten or misjudged just because of the way they look and they were darker than those who were in charge. I went to school in Millbrae from 4th grade through high school, and I grew up with people saying, "You're Black, right? You must like grape soda and fried chicken. You must get your athleticism from your Black side, people touching my hair, being shamed for not being able to speak Spanish or Tagalog. I don't know why, well, I do know why those stereotypes were sprung on me because of the environment that we live in society today. And also, quite frankly, who doesn't like fried chicken? But I've also been kicked out of stores for not being, or not for being a rambunctious teenager, but because my skin was darker than the employees working. I'm cautious about how I dress, how I go about places by myself when I approach people, because not because I'm a woman or anything, although that plays a part, but because I know the moment I step into a building or even a room, there may be a million questions or prejudgments before I even say a word. In a community that I thought I could feel and grow up safe from these discriminations and judgments, it seems to have been the complete opposite. I don't want to be treated differently. I want to be treated equally. I don't want people to be afraid. I want them to make change. And as a community in Millbrae, built of a predominantly white and Asian population, I feel that we've nearly ignored or set aside experiences like mine. And what can we do to make Black, Indigenous, and other people of color feel more welcome in our community? And maybe that means looking at how law enforcement is trained, how history is taught in the education system, or creating more awareness for those groups overall. And I hope that my story can help those in our community realize that although it's often unspoken, racial discrimination and the racial divide is an issue in our Millbrae community. And I know some people may never fully understand my experiences or go through the same things, but it's worth the effort to try and understand. And yes, it's a difficult conversation to have about race and what that means for our community, but it's necessary. And everyone needs to continue to educate themselves and have these conversations, regardless of how much we think we know or how not racist we are, because that's simply not enough. Thank you for listening.
Celeste, thank you so much for sharing and your leadership. I would now like to introduce Gina Miranda. Gina is a longtime resident in the city of Millbrae. As a matter of fact, her and her husband just celebrated their 40th anniversary. She's raised her family here. She's currently an active member in Latinas in Tech. She has a background as an inclusion specialist for Oracle and other companies throughout the Silicon Valley. So I would like to now introduce Gina Miranda.
Okay, I'm unmuted. Thank you so much.
Welcome.
Should I go ahead?
Yes, please.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Thank you for the introduction, and thank you for the opportunity to chime in and do all of this. I think we all have a Me Too story, and this dialogue is going to be great for us to see each other as individuals through our stories. As Tom mentioned, I'm a longtime Millbrae resident. I've lived here for 30 years, raised my kids here. Recently had my 30th anniversary dinner at La Colina, which was fantastic, little outdoor experience. But anyway, my story is not about that, because Millbrae has been fantastic for all of us. We don't have any complaints at all. We're so privileged to be able to live here. But my story is actually from growing up. I grew up in San Francisco. And it was during the last period of social unrest, which was during the 60s. And both my husband and I were involved in school busing at the time. That was how they were trying to integrate students and force us to learn more about each other. And that was fine, but until they started sending us to Black schools, and they started sending Black children to our schools. And then all hell broke loose. But basically, my story is one of struggle and of privilege, because the busing was definitely a struggle. It got really ugly. But my husband and both of us have this similar experience, actually very different experience, but same results, where we both felt privileged by the time we were in our teens, because we knew how to appreciate other cultures. We knew how to, we had gone through that struggle with them, and we kind of came out the other side, like in a war, kind of, where you form these alliances, and for the rest of our lives we are privileged to be comfortable around different people, different kinds of people and races, and not have to worry about who we are and who they are. So again, straight up privilege. Um, but what I wanted to share, though, is that we're raised to believe in the American dream. And we're raised to believe that if we work hard, each of us will get a piece of the pie, right? And I firmly believe that there's plenty of pie for everyone. People come from all over the world. There's plenty of pie for everyone. However, the it's not easy to get that piece of the pie. So I'm going to talk to you about three different scenarios, three different types of people, and how different it is for each of them. I'll start with myself. Um, I've worked hard all my life to get to this American dream, and I feel like I'm living it for the most part, but also feel like I've had to work twice as hard because I'm a woman. The systems are not set up to make it easy for me. I have to, I'm not naturally confident, which a lot of men are, not all, but a lot of men are naturally confident, and they maneuver this world easily. Um, I have to struggle with not being heard, figuring out my imposter syndrome. But you know what? The bottom line is that I'm privileged. I have my education. I know how the system works, um, and I can get around it. The second example is my son, who has a learning disability. And he's privileged too. I mean, he grew up here in Millbrae, and great friends, great opportunities. He had to struggle in school because school is not set up for people like him who need a different way of learning. And I had to use some of my privilege to give to him, my home, my time, my education, so that he can learn to maneuver all of that. And he's still going to have to work twice as hard as normal people to do that. But we could all give back a little bit of our privilege in that respect, because wouldn't it be great if Millbrae and other school systems had diverse learning opportunities? It would really be great for everyone in the school, not just the person who's disabled. Think about things that we're used to nowadays with people who are handicapped, right? We've created parking spots for them. We've created bathrooms for them, but just for them. And we've created, but we've also created those cool sliding automated doors at the Safeway and at the Lucky's and all those places that we get to take advantage of. So that's an example of how, when we use some of our privilege, meaning, and we can use it any way we want. We can use our brains, we can use our innovation. When we do that extra work to help the underrepresented person, it's really going to help all of us in the end. So the last group I wanted to talk about is those folks who are, a whole lot of folks who are not privileged or are very little privileged. And for them, the American dream is almost an impossibility. How can we give some of our privilege to them? I don't know. We'll have to get creative about it. But the good news is that this is a fantastic start, and we can definitely start by getting uncomfortable with uncomfortable conversations. Uh, by the way, just a side note, some of these arguments that I'm seeing on social media, Facebook, LinkedIn. I've seen some of these where people try to start a Black Lives Matter conversation or some other kind of privilege conversation, and folks get all freaked out and arguing. It sounds exactly like us little kids when we were arguing back in the 60s and trying to figure each other out. We just have to get comfortable with these uncomfortable conversations. So thank you very much.
Tina, thank you very much for sharing. I would now like to introduce another longtime community member. She has several businesses in Millbrae. She also raised her family here with her and her husband, Alice Kwong. Alice, you're muted right now, so we need to unmute you.
Alice, you should have an unmute button appear before you right now. Alex, can you, I've sent the unmute request to you. You should be able to unmute yourself at this point.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, okay, right?
Great. Yes.
Okay. Sorry for that. Hi, everybody. Good evening, and thank you for holding up this meeting. And I know behind this meeting, Tom and the city member do a lot of work. And also, I totally agree with Gina. And I believe Millbrae, as majority population is the first and second generation immigrant. And I moved to Millbrae in 1998. I just share a quick story for my two daughters. When I moved to Millbrae, my oldest daughter in the second grade, the younger one in the first grade. And one day, my older daughter come back home and say, "Hey, Mom, can you do me more lunch? My teacher want to get additional set lunch for her." I said, "Oh, okay." And she said, "Because all my classmates have a lunch because I make rice." But my younger daughter, who is in first grade, she said, "Mom, can you not making rice for me?" I said, "Why?" "Because, I don't want to make something like not my classmate like." I feel thankful for my daughter, for the second grade daughter, for the teacher for life. Because she made my daughter feel so proud of herself. She's not a stranger, she's something special. Because the teacher want to get her lunch. Doesn't mean the teacher really want to eat her lunch, but she make my daughters have a more confidence to unite herself to the whole classmate. But compared for my younger daughter, she said, "Oh, I don't want rice anymore," because she made of confidence. Because someone doesn't want to see a lunch is different than others. So I would say for multicultural community, we just need to learn each other, support each other, and are trying to understand each other. That's why I saw like one story too, like I think it's about 15 years ago, before my daughter go to college. One day I called Tina Pappen. She was a mayor at that time. I said, "Tina, my daughter need to go to college. You try to write a recommendation to them." That's what Tina do. When I first pick up the phone call for Tina said, "Hey, what I can do for you?" She was a mayor. She said, "Why?" But she take my two kids and my other friends' two kids to breakfast. She paid them for the breakfast. And then she given her a good lesson how to become a good citizen. That was a very good, examples how our citizens are supporting each other and understanding each other, and let us to grow up in this community. That's why 2 years ago we set up for the Millbrae Cultural Committee. We were trying to open to the whole citizenship to invite them to participate Asian Chinese New Year and also Moon Festival like market. We have been also community gathering, and we open to all the citizens in Millbrae. But we still feel like we still can do more, because compared for the population, it's almost close to 50% of the Asian, by understanding. But when we open to the whole community, that means we have another almost half percentage for the citizen can participate for the open night for the night market and the community gathering. But we only feel less than 10 non-Asian people coming, except like the city mayors and the council and those officials. But otherwise, it's not enough people to willing to all confidently to get into different culture and become a more, peaceful and knowing each other community. So I thought this meeting is great, and I thought I'm very positive persons. At this time, I feel very luckily living in this city, and my friends have all different color and all different language. Even though my English is not well, but I still make a lot of good friends, neighborhood relationship. So thank you very much.
Alice, thank you again for sharing your story.
Thank you.
I'd now like to introduce Marion Kwong, who's also a longtime member of the Millbrae community. Her and her husband raised their family here in the city. Marion is quite active in various committees and commissions. She also runs a local business and after-school tutoring program here in the city of Millbrae. So, Marion, welcome.
Can you hear me? Does anybody can hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Marion. Thank you.
Okay, good. Thank you, Tom, for your introduction. Actually, I think I lived in Millbrae longer than among the four of the speakers. I lived here the longest. I came to this country as a student for grad school, and I think I'd be lucky. I landed in Chicago. There are tons of African American there. And I've been lucky and never really felt that any racism over there. And then I worked my way up to many commercial company, and to be project managers and manage IT projects. And then I, like Gina said, we're here to pursue an American dream. And then I am not at a position like a Bill Gates, but I think I actually reached my American dream. And then because I like this country, it just, when I landed, first moment when I landed, got on a plane from Taiwan, I actually felt the air full of freedom. Okay, so I love this place. So anyway, I came to Millbrae in 1988. And then my children had gone through all elementary school, middle school, and high school. And then they graduated and to UCLA, UC Davis, and then they all very well off today in many different kind of industry. And then and I raised them very well, I think. And then I thank you for the school district and the city of Millbrae had provided that opportunity for them to be raised well here. And then I think my whole family, at least to my knowledge, I never really experienced any racism in Millbrae. Only have the difficulty, challenge of cultural differences. So anyway, so then I always thinking we can work it out. And then I have friends from different races, different nationality, different ethnic group, and I do well with them. But then at the recent years, and then I think our country, United States, has experienced some troubled moment, which has brought lots of unwanted activity in Millbrae. And Millbrae is also receiving a lot of unwanted baggages from our public transit system. The recent one is a Black Lives Matter, and then we have protests, and then we also have some unwelcomed individual come in to do the looters come in, which we don't want them. But it's simple to say that I can proudly to say among to all my friends, all we want is the safety, 6-letter word safety. And then we just want the safety for our senior to live their life here, for the student to grow up here, for our parents to be happily raise our children here. And then I only just want to be able to shop in downtown without any fears. at any time. And I also want to be able to fill my prescription in any pharmacy without fears. And I also want to be able to go to bank, not worry about leaving bank, get robbed. And I also wanted to go to dinner in Millbrae in downtown, not worry about my car got broken into, vandalized in the parking lot. And then, so we just want us enjoy this simple life activity, fears free. We don't want any fears. But now, actually, for recent years, but last past 2-3 years, I actually have fear. I actually have fear to do my morning walk in my neighborhood. I actually have fear to go to the grocery store, Safeway, Lucky, after hours. I also have fears, to fill my prescription in the pharmacy after hours. And then, I also had a lot of fear actually going to Chase Bank near the public transit area. It just bothers me. And then but then I also think about Millbrae want to be a better city and bringing more prosperity to our businesses, to our residents, and then to raise our property value. But then how can we achieve that? All I can think about is one word: safety. Once we have safety, then the people from other city will come to Millbrae to dine, to check a thing out, to visit friends, to hang out. And then with our recent, the future development, maybe we bring some more businesses. But everything is, we need safety. And then so I actually here is urging everyone, put down our differences to build that safety in Millbrae. I urge everyone see every Millbrae resident beyond colors and nationality, but just a Millbrae resident in one community. And I also urge everyone act as a Millbrae resident to be responsible to our community, to work with our city government to make our city, Millbrae, a better place to live. Because everybody wants to be happy to live here. And then we don't want to see people moving out, which is, I kind of know somebody is already start thinking about moving away. That's not what we want. And then we want to have safety, to bring new businesses to our community, better businesses, maybe businesses, not just restaurant, maybe businesses that have different kind of boutique store, toy store, everything. So, but then without safety, without bringing the traffic from other city in the Bay Area, we're not going to achieve that. Anyway, thank you for your time.
Marian, thank you very much. And also Celeste, Gina, and Alice, thank you very much for taking the time and opening this town hall up with your stories. And now I'd like to hand it over to Jose and his team to continue with the town hall. So Jose.
Tom, thank you very much. And I'd like to thank everybody who shared their story. I think it's important to sort of start this cultural inclusiveness and equity town hall with, just array of different sort of perspectives and ages and perspectives on the city of Millbrae. So thank you, Celeste. Thank you, Gina. Thank you, Alice. Thank you, Marian. And we hope to continue receiving these wonderful stories from the audience. I know that we currently have 88 participants currently logged in right now. And I want to quickly reiterate a couple of things that are important for part of the process. And so interpretation is currently available for people that speak Spanish and or Chinese. If you go to the bottom bar, where it says interpretation, there's going to be an option for Spanish or Chinese or off, which is what we have now, just the English version. And you can select the language that best represents your needs. Okay, so currently we have interpreters speaking of what's currently said in the main forum. And so if you need an interpreter, please select the Spanish or Chinese version of interpretation, and it'll automatically put you in that channel as we continue to speak in English in the general forum. You can always select out just by pushing it again, and you'll be put back into the main forum. I also want to make sure that everybody knows that if you we're going to have a public forum in a couple of minutes. And so if you can raise your hand to be able to put you on the docket. And so the docket will allow us to have an idea of, one, who wants to speak and share their thoughts with the public, and two, it'll create a list of people that we're going to call out as we go through our progressions. And so if you are interested in sharing your story or sharing your thoughts about the topic tonight, again, raise your hand by going into the participation button and selecting the raised hand feature. If you're currently on a phone, the raise hand feature is *9. Again, *9 if you're currently on a phone and you want to share your thoughts tonight, it is *9. And so again, thank you, Tom. Thank you, everybody who participated. My name is Jose Lopez. I'm part of the facilitation team tonight. With me, I have Vo, who's going to be helping me out with the chat and the poll features throughout the evening. And so if you have a question that you need to ask us, feel free to let Vo know. If you do not want to speak in public, everybody is at a different sort of point where whether or not they want to speak in the general comment section, feel free to submit the comment or question to Vo, and we will get them. We will get to those questions accordingly. PCRC is a nonprofit organization with over 35 years of experience in providing facilitation and mediation for the city and county of San Mateo and other areas, other cities in the area. Our role for tonight is to remain neutral and to help facilitate the process. And so my job is to, or our job is to guide the process, ensure that ensure that there's a fair and safe environment, that people feel safe, and that everybody's heard from all the spectrums of opinion within the audience that we have tonight. So with that said, the agenda tonight is mainly the public forum. It's you. And so we have a quick intro, which included some example stories, and we have a closing comment, but the main event tonight, or the main focus, is going to be the public forum. So please help us and participate. I want to quickly review the objectives for tonight. And on your screen, you have the dialogue objectives. It's to share personal stories and perspectives in order to gain an understanding and cultivate community trust, to deepen our understanding of complex issues related to race equity, where people of all backgrounds and incomes, an income level can thrive. With that said, we do want to create or establish some group agreements as we share our thoughts and ideas with everybody else. So I would encourage everybody to speak and chat respectfully, to listen for understanding, to speak from your own experience, and to let the facilitator guide the process. And then remember, we're currently on Zoom, and it's a challenge to sort of get through some of these things, but bear with us. During the public forum, we will have 3 minutes for each person to speak. At the 2.5 minute mark, we will let you know that you have about 30 seconds left. And once you hit the 3 minutes, we will let you know that it's time, at which point we will let you finish your thoughts, so you can continue to sort of complete what you were saying, and then we'll move on to the next person. I want to let everybody know that tonight's event is being recorded, that we will be sharing some polls with everybody to get an idea of who's in the audience, and just so you all know whose voice is being represented tonight. And then all participants are going to start on mute, and when you raise your hand, we will mute you accordingly. Okay, with that said, we have about 90 participants now. Again, if you want to participate in the public forum, go ahead and raise your hand and we will call you accordingly. With that said, we're going to go ahead and start with our first poll. So Vo, can you lead us through our first poll?
Certainly, Jose. Good evening, everyone. Once again, just to reintroduce myself, my name is Talavo Mavai. I am under the Fund Development Communications with PCRC. And just to make it easy for everyone to memorize my name, I go by Vo for short. I'm in a little trick that I always tell people to remember my nickname is think of the infamous magazine Vogue, just remove the G. So if you have any questions, please, by all means, you can address me by Vogue. But thank you again for taking your time to being part of this process, and we greatly appreciate it. And it is an honor to be here with everyone. So let's go ahead and launch our first poll here. First poll is going to be based on demographics. First question there that you'll see in the next few seconds will be, do you live and work within the city of Millbrae? 2 is your age demographics. And 3 is what ethnicity do you represent? 4 is your gender. So easy 4 questions there. You are not required to disclose or answer any of them, but we do encourage your participation. I'll give a few seconds for a few of us or most of us to respond. Once we get a good majority, we will go ahead and close the poll, and then we'll just share out a few highlights. But thank you again, everyone. Okay, we're slowly trickling in. We're currently at 60%. We give about 10 more seconds for a few more responses. And if we don't get any more, we'll go ahead and end our poll there. And perfect. We'll go ahead and end it. We ended up with 69% participation amongst everyone here tonight. Thank you again. So for our first question, do you live and or work in the city of Millbrae? Majority answered that they do live in the city. And then the age demographic majority amongst us this evening identified as ages 35 to 54. Our third question there, majority amongst us this evening identified as white. And then lastly, our gender is 72% identified as female. So you can see those responses shared there for your review in the next few seconds. But thank you again for participating.
All right, thank you, Vo. We appreciate that. So that gives us an idea of who's in the audience. Again, we'll have several polls so people can share. Not everybody's going to speak tonight, but at least you can participate and make yourself heard according to the polls that we've launched, so we know who's in the audience. And of course, like I said, if you want to submit a question or submit a comment, please send the question or comment to Vo. We will be reading some of the questions and comments as we select people to share their thoughts and their stories tonight. And so with that said, we're moving forward with our main part of it this evening, which is the public forum. I want to remind everybody that in order to participate in the public forum, you need to raise your hand. Currently, we have a couple people on the docket, and we're looking forward to listening to Anne and John. And so if you are willing to share in tonight's stories, please go ahead and raise your hand. It is at the bottom of the toolbar, the participant button. Click next to your name, and it'll allow you to see how to raise your hand. Okay. With that said, I want to review some of the things that we're going to do tonight. Today's forum, you'll have 3 minutes to share. You'll have a reminder at 2.5 minutes. We're going to ask you to share your name. All the public representatives or city representatives will be on mute, so they will not respond, but they will be listening to what you're sharing tonight. Again, Vo will read any questions and comments that are submitted through the chat directly to him. And so with that said, if we can, let me see, if we can go ahead and start with our first hand. Do we have anybody that has their hand raised? Anybody that wants to share in tonight's event?
Jose, I am going to go in the order of the queue that I made.
Okay.
So as people were raising their hands, I acknowledged them, I messaged them directly, and I lowered your hand. And I did also notify you that you are added to the queue. So first one here, we have 1, 2, 3. We currently have 7 submissions or people that have raised their hand that would like to join. So thank you. We encourage everyone if you are interested. So first we have Joe Chen. I'm going to ask you to unmute. And once again, you have a 3-minute time limit. We kindly ask that you stick to that as best as you can. I will just give you a 30-second warning, and then I will notify you also when it is time. So Joe, you should see a pop-up there. Perfect.
Hello, everyone. My name is Joe Chan. My family and I live in Millbrae for 21 years. I appreciate the effort of City Council and City Manager to set up tonight's town hall meeting to let us share the concern from residents and to try to maintain and improve the safety living environment in Millbrae. I feel fortunate that we live in the city of Millbrae that has good rating school, is a relatively safe city, and residents in different ethnic groups get along in harmony. And crime rate is relatively low. We hope that all this good quality of life in Millbrae can be maintained and improved. There will be challenges ahead of us as the multiple large residential developments adding significant number of residents to Millbrae. We hope that the budget for the police department be maintained and even increased as new residents moving in Millbrae. Increase police patrolling the residential area to ensure the safety of the residents and deter possible criminal activity is the first priority of all residents in Millbrae. Secondly, we also hope to see the high rating school be maintained as more residents adding to Millbrae. And this is another important area that many residents choose to live and stay in Millbrae. And it's very important to maintain everybody's good education for their next generation. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. We appreciate your thoughts, and we appreciate you bringing us into your home and telling us your story. Again, thank you very much, and you have a good evening. And so next on the docket, we have Diane. Diane, if you can unmute yourself.
Okay.
Go ahead, Diane. Can you hear us, Diane? We can see you, but we can't hear you.
How's that?
Yes, now we can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay.
The floor is yours.
I've got 3 minutes, so I'll try to combine what I wanted to say. I wanted to respond to the other speakers, and that Celeste sounds like a wonderful young lady, and I hope that she gets treated, fairly in life. I lived in Millbrae since 1976, raised my 2 daughters here. I like to believe that we've always treated everyone of all ethnicities fairly, because that's how I was raised. Born and raised in San Francisco, like Gina. I lived through the 60s, was bused, the whole thing. I think Millbrae is a great place. I do feel like things have changed here over the years. I just moved back after being away for about 4 or 5 years. And it sounds like to me, we all kind of have the same concern about safety. And I respect everybody's, things that they spoke about tonight. And I think the bottom line to all of this is we all have to be kind and treat each other nicely and fair and respectfully, no matter where we're from, what we look like, what our financial background is, or how we were raised. I was raised big Italian family. We didn't have a lot, but we thought we did because we were all loved. And I think that's what makes people feel better. So I think if people treat each other nicely in Millbrae, we can overcome all these issues that are upsetting to people and having people act out. I don't like the violence that's going on in the country. I don't like to even think that any of it happens in Millbrae, but we are seeing a lot of it here. I feel like the marches, I didn't go to the protests because I feel like there was so much against our police in general in the country. I support law enforcement. I know there are bad ones. I don't like anything that I saw in the news that happened that precipitated all this violence, but I don't think you can blame a whole lot of people because of a small group, just like doctors, lawyers, whatever group that people find bad people in. So I'm on here mainly to say that, you know, I would like to do whatever I can to make Millbrae a safe, good place for everybody. I did not like the chalk drawings on the ground that said police were murderers. That was very upsetting to me. And I think that was what really prompted me to speak out, because I know children were involved in that organizing event that day. And that was really upsetting to see that. So I hope that we can all, going forward, when we do something, think of everybody, be inclusive of everybody, even our police officers and their feelings. And I know the police feel that they are very supported here. So that makes me feel better. And I don't want anyone, whatever age, you know, race, creed, color, whatever, to feel uncomfortable in Millbrae, because I've never felt like Millbrae was that way. That's really what I have to say.
Diane, thank you very much. Again, thank you for welcoming us into your home, and we can see your video. Thank you very much for your thoughts. And it's always nice having somebody who's lived in that community for a long time and can sort of share their thoughts throughout the years.
43 years.
That is amazing. Thank you. And I hope the Zoom experience wasn't too bad. And again, welcome, and we appreciate your thoughts.
Okay, thank you for listening.
Okay, thank you. All right, so next on the docket, as a speaker, we have Yu Hugh, and then on deck, we have John Muniz. So Yu Hugh, I hope I'm pronouncing that correct. If you can go ahead and share your story, your thoughts with us tonight. Go ahead. Can you hear us? You should have a request. Okay,
Sorry.
I think we hear you now.
My unmute button was locked. Hi, good evening, everyone.
Welcome.
My name is Yo-Yo Shui. I live on Hemlock Avenue in Millbrae, and I'm also a business owner here. I'm glad to join everybody at this diversity and inclusion town hall. And I'd love to talk more about diversity and inclusion in our city. And I'd like to just remember how we arrived at this meeting, why we have 94 people sitting on a call together. It's because George Floyd was murdered. George Floyd, along with hundreds of minorities, were murdered. And that is not a reflection of the police in our city. It is not a reflection of the police around our country. It is simply a reflection of the state of racism in our country. And we discovered through our meetings, through our march, that racism was a concern, that only some of us have never experienced racism, that all of us have felt uncomfortable in some way, in some shape, with the things that we see going on in our communities. And I just wanted to reflect on a story, and I think this story sort of helps us, again, understand the journey that it took to get here. When a couple of folks in Millbrae were helping to organize the Black Lives Matter March, which turned out a record amount of people, and just was a great event where everybody could share their stories and really express their feelings in the aftermath of this great tragedy around our country. There were some people who said, well, where is our march? Where is our march for the Asians? When there is so much violence against Asians by African Americans, where's our march? And there were a lot of very divisive comments put out there. But I'd like to just say that diversity, inclusion, acceptance, it's not a zero-sum game. We can all benefit from this conversation. And what was a Black Lives Matter march one day is now such a bigger conversation. It's a bigger group. We now have an anti-racism coalition based solely out of Millbrae. We have students involved. We have this town hall, and this is an ongoing effort. And I just want people to keep that in mind, that when we support other people, even if we're not personally affected, even though I'm not African American, I can support African Americans with the hope that someday, if and when Asians are facing some sort of similar crisis of a similar magnitude, that the same allies that we supported will turn around and then support us. So I believe Millbrae is such a diverse community. I believe that there are still, I don't think we should be in denial that there are still a lot of misunderstandings that exist in this community. There are misunderstandings and sometimes some false narratives that go around. And I hope that with more opportunities for dialogue, with more opportunities for conversation, and more perspectives, we can just better understand how we can work towards that goal of a truly better Millbrae. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I appreciate your thoughts and bringing us into your home. I also appreciate you bringing the various communities and how the overlapping sort of interests are in these spaces. And so thank you very much for your thoughts and for bringing your perspective tonight. And so now we are going to move on to John. John Muñiz is up next. You have 3 minutes, John, and then we have Margaret on deck. John Muñiz, go ahead and unmute yourself. John, you should have a request to unmute. Go ahead and, okay, I think we hear you.
Hello.
Hello, welcome.
Thank you. I have a prepared statement. I have lived in Millbrae for 26 years and have always found our little community to be a very diversified experience with many cultures working for the common good. As a person of color, I have never felt excluded, bullied, prosecuted, nor have I felt any kind of social injustice toward me or my family. One would say I don't get out much. That's not the case. I belong to many Millbrae-based community service organizations and have never seen any type of discrimination based on race, religion, or sexual orientation. We are extremely blessed in Millbrae to have so many diversified ethnic backgrounds and cultures. Our school system is among the best in the state. We are surrounded by big pharma, high-tech giants, which bring to our community cultures from all over the world. During these difficult times, it is my fervent hope our residents can continue in a progressive manner to maintain our balance of social justice and tolerance. Also, I would like to take the opportunity to thank Captain Paul Kunkel and the San Mateo County Sheriff's Office for their support of Millbrae. Thank you so much.
Thank you, John. We appreciate your thoughts. We can see that you put a lot of time and energy into putting those thoughts and energies into this space. And so we appreciate, again, we also appreciate the fact that you've been in the city for this long and you are able to sort of share your thoughts tonight. So thank you. All right, so next we have Margaret. Margaret, and then Anne is on deck. Margaret, can you go ahead and you should have a request to unmute.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes,
Hi.
we can. Go ahead.
Okay. Hi, fellow neighbors. My name is Margaret Fang. I also go by Margaret Ng. I'm the wife of Anders Fang and also the mother of 2 young teenagers. My husband and I are always incredibly grateful that we live in this beautiful town of Millbrae, where we experience minimal amount of racial injustice. We always feel safe, and we are happy that to see friends walking around the blocks and trooping around downtown while munching ice creams with our kids. We do not worry anything about being racially attacked because we feel that the majority of the residents believe in inclusiveness, that one would not judge another person based on his or her gender, their ethnicity, nor color. I remember seeing a good friend of mine, Dennis Feeman's Lunar New Year celebration post on Facebook page. His post has a picture of the school board of trustees and our city mascot. The city on the Facebook post, he indicated that it's a Lunar New Year event. All culture and species were welcome. I wish I could show you the picture right now. It was totally stunning. When I saw that picture, I feel like this is exactly what we are living in this little town of Millbrae. And it also registered me because the Facebook page not only reinforced our core value of how we live our life and how we raise our kids, but it also exemplifies what we have seen in our community. So it has been great in the last 10 years, in the last 10 plus years that we're living in this community. Nevertheless, my belief was actually challenged in recent days with a few incidents. I'm sorry, here's two stories that I would like to share with you. So a few months ago, I was working on a PPE fundraising effort with my fellow board of directors from Millbrae Cultural Committee, aka MCC. We work around the clock buying masks and other medical supplies for hospitals, medical professionals, government staff, and nursing homes. As a result of our hard work and dedication, we were able to secure nearly 20,000 pieces of masks and PPEs for our essential workers. John Muniz, the previous speaker, is actually one of our members, and he could witness that we were able to get quite a bit of masks and other PPEs in such a short period of time, because we have a lot of support from the community, and we work around the clock to call local distributors in Canada, in Southern California, and even like San Francisco. We were so grateful that we have the community support. However, a certain group of individuals actually came up with some conspiracy theory and accused us for why we were able to secure these masks in such a short period of time while London Breed wasn't able to buy any. People were questioning about us that we were probably close related to powerful people in the Chinese Communist Party. They discredited our genuine effort and our hard work, and second-guessed our intention of inclusively trying to help our community. So that was actually something really bothering myself and all of our board members. At that incident, all we want is just to try to protect and save everyone from the community so that we do not need to run into a situation like Italy, where the older populations cannot make a decision on their own whether they can live or not, because our medical infrastructure is overwhelmed. We do not want to run into the situation. We want everybody to be safe. That's why we initiate this PPE donation effort. So I just wanted to convey this message to everyone that please see people with good deeds. Don't second guess other individuals when they're trying to step up and help the community. This is one of the incidents that I've actually recently experienced. The other incident that I've expressed recently, the other incident that I've experienced recently is about my daughter who was actually an 8th grader back in October 2019. She actually spoke in front of the city council and advocated that Millbrae to form a friendship city with the city of Dongguan, China. She said she wished to participate in cultural exchange program with Dongguan to learn the language, to study Chinese culture, and to meet local friends. I was so proud of my daughter, who actually has the courage to step out and advocate for herself and her peers. At the age of 13, she had the courage to speak in front of the room of people and advocate for herself. She truly represents herself and her thoughts. She spoke her mind, and she clearly have no conflict of interest anyway. But
Margaret, we are approaching the third 3-minute mark. Can you give us your final thoughts, please?
yeah, but all these were being called out by someone, and she was called out. Why? Then she didn't state who she is. Her father is X and X. She shouldn't have spoke up like this. So something like this is total and acceptable. This type of diverse voice is highly discouraged. The reason I speak up and share my story is to raise awareness that we all are living in a small community. Any racial tension or name calling is prohibited. I truly hope that our community will understand the importance of inclusiveness and being all citizens together for a change with a unified voice. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Margaret. We appreciate your thoughts, and I also appreciate you bringing in the children and the next generation of citizens that are going to inherit the city. And so we really appreciate you giving us your family story and sharing with everybody. And so now we're going to move on to Anne. But before we do that, I'd like to remind everybody, since we're approaching about 90 to 100 people here tonight, I want to encourage people to raise their hand in the Zoom feature so we can get you on the docket to be able to share your thoughts. Everybody has a 3-minute limits. You will get a warning at a 2.5-minute mark. And we're trying to get as many stories as possible from the various perspectives that are currently in the city. And so if you want to share your story, please go into the participant button, and right next to your name, there should be a more feature, at which point you can select raise hand. We will put you on the docket and we will have you ready to go. Also, if you're coming in a little late, we have an interpreter currently. We have 2 interpreters, one in Chinese or Cantonese and one in Spanish. If you go again to the Zoom toolbar, on the far right, it should say interpretation. If you click on interpretation and select the language, you will be connected to that channel, and the interpretation will be the audio you hear. Okay, also, if you don't feel comfortable speaking in public and would like us to share some of your thoughts, I would like for you to share or chat to Vo, who is my team facilitator tonight, Talavo, and he will eventually read some of these out in tonight's evening, okay? So up next, we have Anne Oliva. Can you go ahead and unmute yourself? You should have a request to unmute. And then on deck, we have Michael and Amy. Michael and Amy. The name of their Zoom is Michael and Amy.
Thank you. I'm not going to take 3 minutes of everybody's time. I'm so happy to see that there's so many participants in this actual Zoom meeting. And I have to be honest and upfront that I was very hesitant to the subject. Why? Because it's a very heavy subject. But the best way for any leader to participate or to take leadership is to take it on. And I think that one of the issues I have was that it was peninsula conflict resolution. And what I've gathered from this meeting is there doesn't seem to be conflict. Everybody here, which represents a vast majority of our community, really wants resolution. So I have to say I've lived in Millbrae since 1990, and I have a somewhat of a interracial family. I'm married to a Latino, and yes, we've all experienced, and we could share stories, but for what I'm gathering from most of the stories from tonight is everybody is very proud and privileged and very grateful to live in a community where we are living in Millbrae. And I'm happy to see that our chief is online. Chief, we're very, very proud of you, and we're very proud of our safeties that goes on in Millbrae. But like any community, there's room for growth. So I thank you everybody for participating, and thank you for allowing me to be part of this growth. And I'm looking forward to the next meeting. So with that, I'll turn it over. I don't need to have the whole 3 minutes.
Annie, thank you very much. And you're right. At least for us at Peninsula Conflict Resolution, we see conflict as an opportunity. And we see these difficult dialogues as a way to create a conversation and create a space to be able to share what we're doing here tonight. And so the resolution component of our name is where we hope to focus as we bring people together from different spectrums, and as people are able to share where they're coming from and their own personal experience about tonight's subject, wherever they might be. So thank you very much, Annie. We appreciate your thoughts, and we thank you for being here tonight. I want to remind people that if you're interested in sharing your thoughts, feel free to raise your hand. One of the things that I forgot to mention, for those people that are on the phone, in order to raise your hand, you press *9. *9 will allow you to raise your hand and put your hand on the docket, at which point we will let you know that you're when you're next, and we will unmute you. And so if you're on the phone and you still want to share your thoughts, you're more than welcome to come in. Just press *9. You'll be on the docket, at which point we will move forward from there. Okay. So up next we have Michael and Amy, and then on deck we have and I apologize for the pronunciation, Miss Chen. So Nien Hua Chen. So up next, Michael and Amy, you should have a request to unmute. Go ahead and unmute, and the floor is yours.
Okay, so hello everyone. Oh, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Welcome.
Okay,
Come on
great.
in.
Thank you. So I am the Amy part of Michael and Amy. We did notice, in the spirit of diversity, we probably are the only ones who are sharing a screen. It's our new way to Zoom. I would like to also introduce myself as the Chalk Lady, because I am behind the Chalk Out Racism movement here in Millbrae. And how did I come to do that? You know, I've never done chalk art in my life, and I was inspired. I was inspired by a group of neighbors who came together organically, as Yo-Yo said, after the death of George Floyd. And one of the things that occurred to me is just how absent in my education, and I'm fortunate, spent many years in school, but also in my children's education, the absence of understanding the history and what the definition of systemic racism in this country really is about. It's very complicated, and it's very deep, and it's gone on for centuries. So why chalk? Well, following the protest and march, it was interesting, a banner that our nephew designed and Tom Williams sort of proudly displayed at City Hall was stolen. And we actually saw the gentleman who stole it because he's on camera, he's on film. But the BLM Millbrae banner. And it got me thinking about the power of not only words, but art and statement. So a group of us put together the Chalk Out event. It was in 4 locations. We had our learnings. And I do want to clarify, I have a lot of screenshots because there was gorgeous art in 4 different locations in Millbrae. And I believe what was quoted, Diane, was, "Arrest the cops that murdered Breonna Taylor, who should have been able to celebrate her 26th birthday this year." So part of my education has been researching murdered Black people in this country. And it moves me to make a difference. I'm a mom, and to think about children in this country being murdered makes me want to speak up, speak out, and raise awareness. So we will continue chalking. We invite everyone. The topic is anti-racism. It's your personal expression. For me, it takes the form of people's names. So our next event will be in front of City Hall. prior to the first drive-in movie here in Millbrae. If you feel there is no racism in Millbrae, you're free to write that, because art in action is something that we can all get together and participate in.
It's August 14th.
Oh, sorry, August 14th at 6:30 p.m. Thank you.
Amy and Michael, we appreciate your thoughts here tonight, and thank you for reminding us the role of art in any space. And we thank you very much for letting us into your home and sharing your thoughts. Thank you. All right, so up next we have Miss Chen. Miss Chen, and then on deck we have Katie. So go ahead, Miss Chen, Nguyen Hua Chen. I apologize if I'm not pronouncing that correctly. You should have a request to unmute.
Yes. Okay.
Welcome.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Hi, everyone. My name is Nguyen Hua Chen. I live at 101 South Ashton Avenue. I was an immigrant from Taiwan. We have raised our children in Millbrae over 20 years, and our family enjoys living in Millbrae because of the excellent schools, nice weather, and the variety of restaurants such as Chinese, Japanese, Vietnamese, Italian, Mexican, Thai, Malaysian, Mediterranean, American food. And we also can find all kinds of Chinese food of various styles from different areas, such as Cantonese, Sichuan, Beijing, Shanghai, Taiwanese, Hunan, etc. And all kinds of tea shops, boba, and jamba juice. So the convenience of having the barbershops, the hair salons here, and Chinese herbs and grocery stores within the walking distance has all made our lives easier. However, there are a couple of things that have bothered me. Firstly, I have heard some comments about how there are too many Chinese restaurants and the hair salons and barbershop in downtown Millbrae, and that Millbrae has become another Chinatown. And that kind of comment makes it sound like this restaurants and the Chinese-owned business have made Millbrae become a second-class city compared to Burlingame downtown. And secondly, you can find the segregation in Broadway, Millbrae downtown, and most of the stores are non-Asian business on Broadway between Meadowglen and the Taylor Boulevard. On Broadway between Taylor and the Lacuse, most of the stores are Asian business. And how to commingle Asian and the non-Asian business in downtown, and how to attract more non-Asian restaurants and the business to come in Millbrae downtown if people think there are too many Chinese stores and the restaurants. So most of the time, I feel comfortable living in Millbrae. And almost 40% population is Asian. I have many friends who can communicate in our native language. But during SIP, the sheltering in place time, one day my husband worked at the front yard, and a young white man drove by and shouted to my husband. And it was not a friendly greeting. It was a harassing shout. And that was the first time we experienced the hostility in Millbrae because of ethnicity. And sometimes I feel it's not easy to make friends with the English-speaking people who have lived in Millbrae for a long time. And maybe they have, because everybody has their own social groups. And also maybe they have the same feelings toward us. And I also think that many events held in Millbrae were primarily promoted among English-speaking population, and non-English speaking residents did not know how to participate. And some special events to celebrate the Lunar New Year and the Mid-Autumn Festival did not get too much support or participation from non-Asian residents. So we need to make more efforts to have more activities and programs to help Millbrae residents to have opportunities to learn from one another, support one another, and respect one another. To make Millbrae a better place needs every resident's support. Thank you.
Thank you very much for sharing, Ms. Chen, and for being vulnerable with us and sharing your family's experience and giving us a hopeful sort of, and at the very same time, a cautionary a story from your perspective and from your family. So thank you for joining us tonight and sharing your thoughts with us. Katie Nolan. Katie Nolan is up next. Katie, you should be receiving a unmute yourself notification. And on deck, we have Karen Chin. Karen Chin is on deck, and Katie is speaking up. Katie Nolan is speaking up next. Go ahead, Katie.
Thank you, Jose. And thank you all for participating in this town hall. I wanted to say also, Ms. Chang, one of the things I appreciate so much about Millbrae, I've lived here 10 years with my family, is also the diversity of Asian restaurants. So my kids have had the opportunity to explore all different kinds of foods and cultures merely by living here without having to leave home. And in the time of shelter in place, that's even better. I also wanted to say that I hear a lot of people talking about how important it is that we all feel safe in our communities. And I think that's true, but I think we also have to think about the people who either aren't part of this call or who don't feel comfortable, or maybe who don't want to speak up, who may not feel as safe as we do in this community. I've never worried about not being served or treated well when I walk into a restaurant or a place of business. I've never been followed with the assumption that perhaps I was going to steal something. But I think many of our Black and brown neighbors who may have lived their whole lives here may have a different story to tell. And one of the reasons that I got very interested in anti-racist activities in our community to build us up was the unfortunate death of Chinedu Okobi, a Black man who was tased to death by the sheriff's office for walking down El Camino. I think we can all agree that that was a tragedy, and I don't want that to happen again in our community. And I think we do have to look beyond merely saying that we should be kind to each other, to try and have the difficult conversations that we may need to have so that everybody feels welcome and everyone feels safe in this community. I really love and appreciate the diversity of this community. I enjoy hearing from all of you. And like Ms. Chang, I would welcome more opportunities to engage with my neighbors and share our cultures and share our experiences so that we can be stronger together. And thank you so much to Tom Williams and the City Council, and to Jose and Vo and the others who are here, facilitating what I hope is going to be the first of many discussions on how we can get to know each other better and support everyone in this community. So thank you.
Katie, thank you very much for letting us into your home and for sharing your thoughts and ideas and connecting with other speakers here tonight. So we really appreciate the spectrum of thoughts that are coming out of the community, and we welcome more people to share. Again, if you are interested in participating tonight's forum and you want your thoughts heard, feel free to raise your hand. You do that by going into the Zoom tool feature at the bottom. Press participant, and then next to your name, it should have a drop-down menu that says raise hand. For those of you that are on the phone, you can participate as well. All you have to do is press *9 and you will be placed on the docket and we will call you accordingly. Thank you very much. Up next, we have Karen Chin. Karen, you should be receiving a notification to unmute. Go ahead and unmute yourself. And on deck, we have Joy Posamonte Henry. So just get ready, Joy. Karen, go ahead.
Hi, everybody. It's so nice to see so many participants on this call. I really appreciated some of the speaker stories, particularly the story of the American Dream. You know, my family too came here in search of the American Dream. They actually came here in the 1850s in search of gold, but were not actually allowed to search for gold. They were forced to work on the railroad, and if they were caught sort of trying to keep a piece of gold that they would have found, they would have been probably shot or executed right there on the spot. So they worked on the railroads and they faced their fair share of discrimination. But for the most part, after the few hundreds, the hundreds of years that my family has come and gone back and forth, sometimes getting stuck in China from the Chinese Exclusion Act, we've been able to pretty much live out most of the American dream. And I will say that we have faced our fair share of discrimination. When I was a kid, I was constantly made fun of. I was the only Chinese girl in my entire grade. But at the end of the day, I've lived in a lot of places and I've been able to sort of create a space where I can feel safe, and a place where I am in Millbrae and I can feel safe with my family. And I will tell you that the American dream is achievable, but it's not achievable in the same way for all people. So, when we're talking about Black and brown people, yellow people, we all have to deal with the American dream in a very different way. And I feel as though, even though I've faced my fair share of discrimination, that I'm still privileged, because at the end of the day, I'm allowed to live in Millbrae without fear of when I call the police, without fear. And when I call the police, I don't fear that something will happen to them. When my kids go out for a run, I don't fear that somebody will racially profile them. I don't fear that somebody will mistake them like a Trayvon Martin, and a neighbor will take, action because they see a kid who is suspiciously running down the street. I don't fear that, when, my kids walk into Walgreens and they don't buy anything, that they'll be accused of stealing something. There are so many things that, even though we've been able to achieve the American dream, that fear is a privilege that I have that not all people have. And that fear exists in Millbrae. I see posts on Nextdoor for people who post that they may be African-American and the neighbors are scared and turn around and run in the other direction. That's not okay, and that's not a welcoming community. And I just want to address that, because I know we all talk about people having the same opportunity to be successful and achieve that American dream, but it isn't true. And I do want to acknowledge that that's still the case here, even in Millbrae. So I'm really happy that we're starting this conversation. I'm extremely happy that the city has put on this town hall. I'm looking forward to more uncomfortable conversations, because I really want Millbrae to be a much more welcoming community to everybody that lives here. I'll strangely say too that I moved here 10 years ago as the only Asian girl in my class, in my high school class. I've lived in New Jersey. I went to school in a predominantly Black neighborhood. I lived in New York, Connecticut, London, San Francisco, and then in Millbrae. Strangely, Millbrae is the place I felt the least comfortable out of all the places I actually moved to. And you would think, or I would have thought, that it was the place I felt most comfortable because it had the highest percentage of people that looked like me. But strangely, I was categorized, and it's due, I feel like, to some of the racial tension that Ms. Chang had sort of highlighted. There's sort of the Asian Millbrae, the newer, Millbrae, and then there's the white Millbrae. And over the last 10 years, I feel like, I've been able to get to know people, and people know me as Karen Chin. That's it. And when that happens, I think we all get along. But when I first arrived here, I was either seen as Chinese by the whites, and definitely not Chinese enough for the Chinese because I didn't speak the language. So it was actually an interesting experience for me, and just one that I wanted to highlight, because I'm really hoping that we can have continued conversations about the racial tension that I feel exists between the Chinese or the Asian and the non-Asian. And I also want to address the fact that there are a lot of still, differences in the way people of color are treated in our neighborhood and across the country, compared to everybody else. And we all have to look at our own privilege. We all have to be concerned about safety, but I know we need to look at everybody individually and hear everybody's voices. So I thank you for having this town hall, and I look forward to having more and more conversations about it.
Karen, thank you very much. We appreciate your thoughts and being vulnerable here tonight, and just how, and then it just showcasing how complex these difficult conversations can be. But I think this is a good start to those conversations and being able to share from our personal experience and listen to other folks and allow the space to sort of happen for people to share and hear from their experiences. And so thank you very much again for being here tonight and welcoming us to your home. Joy. Joy, you are next. And on deck, we have Wayne. For those of you that are interested in sharing your thoughts tonight, again, raise your hand and we will put you on the docket and we will allow you to sort of speak your thoughts. We will unmute you, at which point, and then we will share it with everybody. So go ahead, Joy, you are next. And then up next, we have on deck, we have Wayne. Joy, you still here? Joy Henry, are you with us here tonight? Okay, here we go. I think we hear you.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. So I did want to echo Katie and say thank you to PCRC for facilitating this, to Tom Williams and the entire city for hosting something that is as difficult as this to put on, because you never know what's going to happen or you never know what's going to come out of it. So to have that sort of courage as a city, I think is phenomenal. So thank you. You know, I come from a place of privilege, I think, you know, even as an Asian, because one, I'm a lighter skinned Asian. And I think people don't always see that as there's a difference in being Asian, and there absolutely is. We originally came from Daly City, and my kids were at a Catholic school where I would say 95% of the kids were Filipino. And I thought, well, you know, I'm Filipino, so I think it's going to be totally fine for my kids. What I didn't understand was that for everyone else, my kids looked different. They had curlier hair, they had darker skin. My older daughter at the time didn't have the body fit of a regular Asian girl, and she was made fun of. So we moved to Millbrae in the hopes that there would be a little bit more diversity. And there definitely was, but then it was leaning towards the other direction, which was, you know, they were still different. And I don't think that you know, I'm almost embarrassed to say that as a mother of multiracial kids, I didn't fully understand what they had to go through until the most recent events, and listening to parents as well and other members of the community who are just as concerned, who are actually white and don't even have these concerns. So I'm so appreciative of that, because I listened to my daughter's stories, and for them, these are everyday occurrences, right? They just have to deal with it, and they've learned to put up with it. But it shouldn't have to be that way for anyone of color, for Black people, for multiracial kids. It should be like what we have in our vision, that everything is equal, right? Because that's what I thought, that everything is, nothing's happening to me. They're my kids, so everything should be fine. But that's definitely not the case. I mean, my eldest daughter was driving home from work, and she has a Benz. So she was stopped, and automatically the first question that the police officer asked was this her vehicle? Not, you know, are you okay, or, you know, whatever, but she was asked that question, and then she got a ticket for speeding. But I think what really bothered her was that the fact that the police officer didn't ask her what her ethnicity or racial background was. She saw on the ticket that she was labeled as Black, and she doesn't, as a multiracial person, she doesn't identify as that completely. She is a slew of many, many things, and so are all the three girls. So I think the thing that I want to point out is some of us, myself included, have been in this bubble of feeling comfortable, of feeling that we're not racist, so that's okay. But we have to actually flip the switch a little bit and understand that being anti-racist is what we all need to be, and we need to get uncomfortable with ourselves in order to do that. So, so thank you for allowing me to speak, and thank you for this forum.
Joy, thank you very much for sharing your story and your family story. So we appreciate that. And it's always nice to be able to look into people's homes. I feel like we're sharing a moment here on Zoom during the shelter in place. And so we welcome you and we thank you for your thoughts. We have 2 more people on the list. And so it seems that we're going to be able to do it within the time frame that we have. And so, and then after the 2 people have shared their thoughts, we also have 1 or 2 submissions that have been emailed to us prior to the meeting to the email that we have allotted for this forum. And so we would like to share those as well. So on next, we have Wayne Lee, and on deck, we have Lynn Chen. So Wayne Lee is next, and Lynn Chen is our final participant, at which point we will move on to the emails. Thank you very much. The floor is yours, Wayne.
Okay, thank you. And first of all, I want to thank everybody here. I'm very honored and I'm very pleased and I'm lifted by all the different the diversity of people here and your interest in the health of Millbrae. I've lived in Millbrae for 38 years. I lived here before all the proliferation of Chinese restaurants and the changes that's been happening in Millbrae. And I've seen the reactions and I'm still seeing some reactions. And as you know, as growing up Chinese, I'm like, and I think Karen Chin said it very well. You know, I'm the ABC, American-born Chinese. My family's been here for 4 generations. Even though my father was born in China, he left when the communists took over, and he served this country. He was in the Korean War. So my family loves this country, and we devote ourselves to this country. But at the same time, sometimes we don't feel like we're part of this country. And sometimes even on a council in certain meetings, I know that I have to work 10 times harder to be heard. And that happens a lot. And I'm not given the benefit of the doubt. As some of my colleagues, they get the benefit of the doubt, but I don't get the benefit of the doubt. And so even though, and I saw that that the reason why we have this whole discussion, I'd like to thank Tom Williams and PCRC for putting this together, is for an opportunity for the whole community to come together and speak their mind and meet their neighbors, because then you see that we are all the same. We all have the same blood type. We all have red blood, and we all love Millbrae. We do have different cultures. We have different understandings, and I've seen even during the Black Lives Matter, there was a lot of misunderstanding between different cultures as well. Even amongst Chinese culture. Chinese culture is not just Chinese culture. It's Taiwanese, there's Hong Kongese, Singapore, there's mainland Chinese, there's ABC. So, and even them, they have their discussions and they have their conflicts. So there's different types of cultures in Millbrae. I'm pretty sure there's different types of Italians, different types of Maltese. So what I'm asking, and I can tell you, growing up, I was beaten up just for being Chinese. No other reason. I was beaten up just because I was Chinese. The other day I was walking down Trader Joe's and somebody got out of line and coughed at me. Why? Because I'm Chinese and I'm responsible for, you know, the whole virus thing. So, but I understand, and that kind of, yeah, I was hurt a little, but what I'm asking you is, I'm glad you're here, but look into yourself and see what we can do to make our community better. You know, understand that people have pain. Everybody has pain. We don't understand other people's pain. I don't even, my son complains, I don't even know him. I know him, but because he says that I don't know him. So the point is that we all have pain, and I'm glad that you're here. And I'd like to thank you all for being here and taking the time to learn about each other. Because if we all come pulled together, our community would be much stronger and much better. And we can all fight injustice. And we all have to look into ourselves. And I'm asking people, look into yourselves and say, hey, what can I do to open my eyes, open my soul to what's going on? Well, how can I make my community better? So I thank you for all being here. And it really uplifts me. And I really appreciate you doing this. Thank you.
Wayne, thank you very much for your thoughts. Now we're going to try to squeeze in a couple more people. If somebody text me that they couldn't get their hands up, and so we want to include them as well. So Lynn Chen, you're next, and on deck we have Jamie. Lin Chen, you should have received a notification to unmute. Jamie, you are on deck. Thank you. Lin Chen. Okay, here we go. I think we hear you now. Go ahead.
Hello? Yeah.
Yes.
Do I need to open the video? Oh, I just start my video. Yeah.
There we go. You don't need to, but it's good to see you and welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate the City Council having this opportunity for us to speak up. Different from the other neighbors, my husband and I are pretty young. For you guys, we came here for a grad school, and then we start to work in States, and then we lived in San Francisco for 6 months, and then we decided, because lots of the gunshots happening in San Francisco, we feel that Millbrae is a pretty safe place for us to have a family. So we just moved here like 2 years ago. Actually, we pretty enjoy living here. We feel Millbrae is way more better, way more safer than downtown San Francisco. And we feel that I didn't feel any discrimination like happen on us. Probably we're just very lucky. I don't know. We feel like it's kind of like back to our hometown. We can say hi to everyone when we hang out, when we go out for shopping. We can, when we take kids outside to walk around, we just say hi to, like when we meet neighbors. We just say hello to each other. We start to chat. I feel like living here is very comfortable for us, and I really appreciate like our community leader. They didn't follow the current politics stuff to defunding the police, because we feel like neighborhood safety is a priority for us. Like it's a key thing for our residents. Like so we really appreciate our community leaders. They support police at this critical time. So and I also appreciate you guys to like having this opportunity for us to like different people have different background, different cultures to speak up our concerns. And I really glad like we moved here 2 years ago. I think it's a good choice. Thank you.
Lynn, thank you very much. We're happy to hear, welcome to Millbrae. We're happy to hear that you've enjoyed your time here thus far. So thank you for joining us tonight, and thank you for your thoughts. Jamie, you are up next. Jamie, and then one more person we're going to be able to squeeze in. Lillian Chan is on deck. So Jamie, go ahead. You should have received a request to unmute, and you have the floor. Jamie? Jamie, okay, here we go. I think we can hear you now. Yes, the floor is yours. Go ahead.
First of all, yeah, I want to say thank you to all the, my wife, Karen Chin. Full disclosure, my wife is Karen Chin. She's now muting so we don't disrupt the audio. Thanks to the organizers for putting this forum together. I think it's great to see so many in the community, so many, as I look on the screen, so many different faces, male, female, different ethnicities, backgrounds represented. I'm obviously white male, and white male represents the top of the iceberg of privilege in this country. So I think, with that, there's a lot that's been discussed about privilege tonight. And as a white male in the United States, I'm someone that has the most privilege of probably anyone. Yet I'm very sympathetic to what I've heard tonight. And I just wanted to add a couple things about what I've learned through this process. I'm a person that certainly did not grow up with any of the hardships that have been described here. I've had my own hardships, but nothing like those that are not white males in the United States. That being said, I work in an industry where I am, there are a lot of African Americans in my industry, and I am not isolated from that community, from the Black community. But what I've learned from a lot is about allyship. With privilege, I think comes responsibility, and that's why I've tried to learn about allyship through this whole process. And the two things I think I've learned that I just want to share with the group is, you know, these racial issues that have come about, Black Lives Matter, however they're titled, it's not a Black problem, it's an American problem. We are a country that's built on tenets of life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, and if we have groups in our country that don't have access to that, that are severely underrepresented in terms of access to that, then as a country, we have an opportunity and an obligation to those groups. I think the other thing I've learned, and Joy hit on this a little bit, is that I thought I was doing a pretty good job of being sympathetic to the Black community and being someone that was non-racist, that was colorblind. And I think what I've learned is that there's really only two types of ways to be, racist or anti-racist. If you're one or the other, you're not living the ideals of using your privilege as a responsibility to understand what a true underprivileged class, how they've struggled in this country. The last thing I'll share is a quote that, you know, I think one of the other things I've learned is, you know, what we learn in school, this is referenced before, what our kids learn in school is not really representative of a lot of our history, and specifically ethnic minority histories, Asian Americans, et cetera, but certainly Black history. And so one of the things we probably have all learned in school is a quote from Martin Niemöller. He was a pastor in Germany, and you've probably, some of you heard this quote, but I thought it might sort of summarize how I think about privilege. And he said this coming out of the Holocaust, and maybe some of you had heard it, but I thought I'd recite it here. First, they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and then I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me. I think that's where we are in this country. We need allies to speak for the people that have been severely disadvantaged in their opportunity to access the American dream that was talked about really beautifully at the beginning of this call. So as a white male, I just felt obligated to say some words about what I've learned about being an ally. And I think Millbrae is an incredible community. I think safety is certainly very important, but I would also argue that conflict is not a bad thing. Not conflict in terms of violent conflict, but conflict in terms of discussion about people's issues, because if you're not willing to get into conflict, you're not willing to change. And I think this is a time in our country where it's very obvious that we're in need of a lot of change. And with comfort comes status quo. And the status quo for many people in this country is not well right now. So I'd encourage all of us to step up as citizens of Millbrae and think about how we can be allies for these communities. So thank you for the time.
Jamie, thank you and your wife, Karen, for joining us tonight, and thank you for welcoming us into your home. So we have our final speaker for tonight, and we're going to share one or two emails, but Lillian Chang. Lillian, you should have received a request to unmute yourself. Lillian, you have the floor. Go ahead.
Hi, I think everyone can hear me. Good evening, everyone. It's lovely to see all these neighbors here. So I just wanted to add my perspective as a youth in the city. I am going to be a senior at Mills High School. And so I've also been a participant and really active in a lot of the community organizations that have really started just in reaction to, you know, things that have been going on in the nation, especially George Floyd's death. And really just being active in this community and staying true to being anti-racist and taking that step forward. So I just want to say that, you know, I want to thank PCRC and the city for hosting this town hall, and Millbrae for really taking this step to start this national conversation, you know, in our city about race. Someone had brought up racial colorblindness before, and I think it's really important that we don't deflect the conversation and that we really acknowledge each other's stories, you know, that we listen and that we don't invalidate others' negative, you know, racial experiences. And we have to, as a community, really talk about these issues and understand And only then when we come at a place of understanding is when we can move towards policy, and we can really move towards some positive change in our community. And then as a student, I just wanted to say, really grateful for some of the steps taken in the curriculum here in San Mateo Union High School, in the San Mateo Union High School District with ethnic studies, and just really feel the power of being able to be represented in the history that you're learning, and just being able to talk about some of the past, the systemic oppression, and also just institutionalized racism that exists in our country, and being able to bring light to that and learn about that. I think, speaking as you can say whatever you want about Generation Z, but I really do think we're coming at a place of just awareness and wanting to speak out about those issues, and really realizing the social injustices that exist in our country. So yeah, I just really wanted to share some of those thoughts, and just really grateful that I live in a community that is starting to have these conversations, and hopefully in the future we'll continue to go more in depth. I'm someone who has been through the elementary to middle school to high school in Millbrae, and also when I lived in San Francisco for a bit, I lived in the Sunset District as well. So I've always felt like I lived in sort of a bubble here in the Bay Area, and really thank all of you guys for sharing your stories. I just really come from a place, I think, privilege in not maybe experiencing that many, I would say, or severe racist experiences, or something that really hurt me based on my skin. I just really feel grateful to be living in a place like this, but also realizing that outside of this bubble, there are a lot of people who have faced worse. And I think the message here is not to compare or to invalidate each other's experiences, or not to create a competition between who has been more oppressed or who is not. It's the whole message of the Black Lives Matter movement, and the unity as a community is that we recognize each other's stories, and really create I think a country of multiculturalness, instead of deflecting that conversation. So that's sort of the message I wanted to just leave. But thank you everyone for being here.
Lillian, we appreciate your thoughts and your energy, and I'd like to point out that we started and representing the youth voice. We started with Celeste, and she had a really strong introduction, and shared her experience, and then of course we're going to end with you in terms of the live feed, and we really thank you and representing the youth voice, which is much needed. We're going to share, just to be respectful of everybody's time, we're going to share one anonymous a submission via an email, and Tom is going to share and read this out for everybody before we move on and put some closing comments to tonight's evening.
Yeah, thank you, Jose, and everyone. So this is from an anonymous person. It says, "Thank you so much. Please treat this story as anonymous. A neighbor told me that she doesn't see color. This encounter stunned me. When we engage in colorblindness, we deny the discussion of race and ignore someone's experiences. People of color can perpetuate colorblindness, as in the case of this neighbor. This comment is hurtful and damaging because it erases our ethnicities and experiences, particularly those of my mixed race child who has no choice but to confront race in his life. I encourage all of us to be anti-racist and educate ourselves on why colorblindness is an issue."
Thank you very much, Tom. Before we end the public comment section, we would like to do another poll to get everybody's thoughts. I know that not everybody was able to share their thoughts and ideas in public or speak publicly, but we have a poll that kind of takes the temperature of the room. So Vo, if you can go ahead and release the second poll, just so everybody can share their thoughts on how they feel about tonight's event and where they're at in terms of the topic.
Hey, Jose, real quick, can you explain to everyone how they can actually participate and conduct the poll?
Will do.
Okay,
Vo, can you go ahead and do that?
Yes, of course. So I have just launched it. So the poll is live. Everyone should see the pop-up automatically on your screen if you're on a desktop or a laptop. So you should see the poll live there, and it should allow you to participate. As Jose did mention, it's just the second poll of ours is to gauge and get a better idea of everyone's perspective and on how they felt or reacted to all the stories that have been shared tonight. So we do have a few people that have already responded. Once again, we're just going to give time for everyone, majority of us, to respond. First question there is, I believe the city of Millbrae is a welcoming place that honors individuals regardless of their background, ethnicity, gender, sexual orientation, faith, tradition, etc. Our second question that we're asking is, I believe that the city of Millbrae as a community has a lot of work to do to become better at welcoming diverse experiences, backgrounds, ethnicities, genders, sexual orientation, and faith. Our third and last question on this poll of ours is, I am hopeful that together we can create the change that is needed in our community. So we're currently at 60% amongst participants that have responded. We're getting
Hey, Bo, I think some people don't know how to actually take the poll.
Does anyone not have the poll populated automatically or didn't pop up? Because it should automatically pop up and then it should just allow you to select it. It's in multiple choice. You don't have to open anything or click on anything else. The poll should automatically open for you.
This feature is only available for the participants, not the host or the co-hosts.
Yes, that's correct. Sorry, I forgot to mention that. Thank you, Jose. So I'm going to give about 5 more seconds. We're at 76%. Let's see here. Okay, perfect. So we're going to end that. We're going to share the results there. And thank you again, everyone, for taking the time to providing your feedback. So our first question there, majority of everyone went with neutral. And that is believing the city of Millbrae is a welcoming place that honors individual regardless of their background, ethnicity, faith, tradition, and etc. Our second question there, majority of us agreed, and that is, I believe the city of Millbrae as a community has a lot of work to do to become better at welcoming diverse experiences, backgrounds, sexual orientations, and faith, and etc. And then the final one, majority went with strongly agree, and that they are hopeful that together we can all create the change that is needed within our community. So thank you again, everyone. We're going to stop sharing and I will hand it back to Jose. Thank you. Jose, you're currently muted.
Hello, thank you. Thank you, Bo. And so I'd like to thank everybody for allowing me to facilitate or allowing us to facilitate tonight and listening to everybody's story and sharing everybody's ideas, and the spectrum of thoughts and ideas and experiences was great tonight. So we appreciate the participation. We would like to sort of let you know that there is an email associated with this forum. If you have any further questions, suggestions, we have Millbrae Town Hall at ci.millbrae.ca.us. Feel free to let us know. Go ahead and submit your suggestions, your comments, any further stories you might have there. We also, as facilitators, would like to take one more minute of your time to do one final poll, which is, was the meeting useful? Did it help? Should we do this again? And so the first question, if you don't mind me, Vo, I'm going to go ahead and just read it really quick. We have, how helpful was this meeting? Let us know. Was it helpful? Was it not helpful? I learned something new tonight from someone else in my community. Yes, no. And then we have, I heard something that resonated with my own experience. I felt heard and respected tonight. And then finally, I'm interested in future community engagement sessions. Obviously, these polls will be shared with the city, and that will let us know how to move forward from here and what we can do. Of course, the email is available for some long form comments. And of course, this initial poll will give us an idea of how people felt tonight and where we move forward from here. So now I'd like to pass it over to Tom to do the final closing remarks, and we should be able to get you all out by 8 o'clock. Thank you very much. And Tom, go ahead.
Yeah, Jose, Bo, thank you very much. you know, Millbrae is an incredible community. I think we showed that tonight. This meeting would not have been possible if it wasn't for the grassroots effort that started the BLM March on June 13th. Katie, Michael and Amy, Joy, Karen, thank you very much. I mean, it's really the community coming together as one in your city. And it's great getting to know all of our neighbors, as been said, knowing our differences, knowing our feelings. And I'm just proud to be part of the Millbrae community. And I'm proud to be your city manager. And I just love the city and everyone so much. So thank you. I'd like to hand it over to Karen Chin real quick. In 2 weeks, there'll be a town hall meeting hosted by the newly formed local anti-racist coalition. That is the group, the grassroots effort that kind of started this whole discussion. And so Karen, real quick, if you could bring everyone up to date on the town hall that will be sponsored by the coalition.
Can you all hear me? Can you turn that down?
Yes, we can, Karen. Go ahead.
I just wanted to say thank you to the city and to PCRC and for everybody on this call and for those who shared their stories, because I think that this town hall was incredibly valuable in trying to get a sense of learning from our neighbors and really just understanding more about each other. And so we are part of a group of neighbors that have formed the Anti-Racist Coalition in Millbrae. And we would like to further a lot of the discussion that happened tonight on certain topics that you know could use that are of concern to the community. So we will be hosting a town hall on August 20th, which is in about 2 weeks' time at 7 p.m. We would love to have everybody come back and join us and invite others who may be also interested in diving deeper into some of the topics that were raised tonight. And it really is just a safe space for everybody as neighbors to talk to other neighbors and to begin to continue to have these uncomfortable conversations, but hopefully move things forward. So I really want to thank the city and PCRC for getting the ball rolling, and we're hoping to have a number of follow-up town halls to discuss some of these topics going forward. And so our first follow-up will be August 20th. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Karen. And then real quick, our next steps will be to take all the information and then determine whether we, continue with this type of format or we break it out into various discussion points and interests of the community, and we may have smaller, focused-oriented town hall meetings, but eventually prepare and bring public policy to the city council to continue to improve the city. So thank you to everyone again. Jose?
Thank you very much, Tom. Again, the email is provided on your screen. We're taking suggestions or, if you have any comments about tonight. I know I've been receiving some chat telling us that we should do this again. Please send an email. Let us know what your thoughts are and what you would like the future sessions to be. And again, good night, everybody. And we appreciate you letting us into your home and into your hearts. And you have a good night. Bye-bye, everybody.